Good morning, good morning, good morning. What's up, folks? JT here with another Chart Talk Live brought to you by Xtrades. I hope everyone is doing well this morning. Let me get my screen sharing started. All right, so let me just check all my stuff here. YouTube, everything looks good there. Good morning, folks on YouTube. And let me get my window adjusted here so I can see that YouTube chat. Okay, perfect. Let's go. What's up, Navy Plum? Good morning. What's up, Cup of Magic LB? Good morning. What's up, y'all? Uh-oh. We got some scammers dropping stuff in our chat here. Let's see. I'm guessing this person's already... No, not banned yet. They are now. 24 hours, suspicious or spam account. Oh, wow. That's from like forever ago. Okay, well, let me delete the post manually then. Sorry. Just cleaning up this chat real quick. All right, so screen sharing's going. You guys can hear me good. Let's get started. I was actually, when I realized it was hitting 8:30, I was finishing adding the rest of the extensions from this set that we've been watching. Let me get that on there. We're good. I don't think we're in anything that high yet. So, how are things looking in the markets? I think it goes without saying at new all-time highs. Things are still and continue to be quite bullish. SMA is still pushing strongly to the upside. We did get a gap up. We tested that final target from our last upside target analysis on ES. So we hit that 68.81, caught it as resistance, flipped it to support, and now we're trying to push up to the next extension, which this 69.28 is actually from an older set. So right now I'd be looking for 69.51 as a potential next target on ES to watch for possible resistances and to consider booking profits on any of your long bullish positions. And let's also do this. Let me tweak this set of fib extensions. I've also been testing out this other approach for anybody who pays attention to this kind of stuff. Let's do, yeah, we'll do the 2 point, I think that winds up being 118. So, I've been looking at when we hit these larger extension jumps. If you kind of look at the default fib extensions, you typically go from the 1 to the 1.618 to the 2.618, and then on up, essentially 100% fib extension moves from that point forward. One thing that I've been testing a lot was SPY, and we're going to see how this plays out with ES now as well. I'm not saying that this is a strategy that I am like 1,000% confident in just yet, but the results so far I would say are pretty good. And so I've been looking at kind of slicing these bigger jumps in half, and probably the easiest way to do it if you don't feel like mathing it out in your head is to just add a 2.118, a 3.118, so on and so forth, and it'll start to slice those in half as you move higher. So anyway, just something I've been playing with that I've actually seen fairly good results. So if you're the kind of person who's been using fib extensions, a little bit of food for thought there. Again, it's not anything where I would swear by it being, the best thing I've discovered since the 333 SMA or anything like that. So again, gapping up, I'm looking at 69.51 next resistance target here on ES, and then over that we're looking for 7,000 plus, so things remain pretty bullish. We could certainly see a pullback and a pullback down to 68.35. I don't know why I've got these two so tightly on top of each other. Maybe I just dropped two lines by accident at some point. We do have this gap down. We could easily fill that and then bounce from there. That is a pretty decent gap on ES, and typically ES doesn't leave gaps unfilled for all that long, but again, we're not really in a typical market right now either, so anything's possible, but I would not be shocked at all to see a little bit of a pullback down to that 68.35.25 level. Then we get a gap fill and bounce. There's some nice confluences down there too here on the 4 hour. Let's take a look on the hourly chart as well. Yeah, I mean, that would bring us down into the buy pressure on NTS. And that'll probably be there for a little while longer unless the market starts to get really, really ramped up. So, anyway, that's the general market analysis. Let's get to some trade plan recaps. And of course, we will work on some new trade plans. What's up, Gardel? Good to see you here. Hope everything's going well. Let's see who else has jumped in the while I was getting through that first little bit. Alan, what's up? What's up? I'm going to go with Waj. Hope you're doing well, Gardel. Hope everything's going well with your very impressive automated reverse split tracker. It's very, very cool stuff. Well, not fully automated. I know that you obviously do some due diligence on those before you actually push them out yourself. So, but a very cool little system that I saw there, at least at a glance. So, all right, let's get to these trade plan recaps. That's what I said we were going to do. So let's do it. Bull, well, just kind of going sideways, right? This anybody who's a bull shareholder knows that. I'm actually, and I'm long-term exposure, but I think it's one of my few positions that's just kind of like not moved for this long, and it's just basically been a sideways grind between 1208 and 1025. We haven't really tested either of those levels yet since we did our plan on this last Tuesday. So this one, I'd say just keep it on watch if you're interested. Now, now that I'm looking at this, I'm going to point this out. We could, or I could certainly make a case for, it could be a really intriguing break of the call entry if we happen to break that with the 333 SMA and confluence. So, somewhere around, let's say Wednesday or latter half of this week, if we get bull pushing over 1208, that could get kind of interesting in my opinion. That would be a really good confluence for it to break through and try to actually get moving back to the upside. So keep that in mind for bull. But again, as far as our trade plan goes, it's been no entries. I would certainly mark these levels down though, set some alerts of your own. I can't have those those JT bot alerts. I don't want to leave those on any one ticker for a super long time because otherwise it just becomes spammy in the chats and all that sort of stuff. So, if you don't already have a copy of Trade Plan Navigator, I know mine says Trade Plan Pilot on my screen. That's just because mine has some additional things that I use for pushing notifications to Discord built into it. So if you don't already have the Trade Plan Navigator, feel free to shoot me a DM. You can essentially plug in all of these levels into the Trade Plan Navigator. You guys have watched me do this 1,000 times if you've joined any of the previous sessions. It'll map out all these levels for you, and then it's very easy to come in here and use that indicator as your condition and set that any alert function call. You can set it on whatever time frame you want to. You can set your notifications, messages, all that sort of stuff. Makes life very easy for keeping track of these trade plans on your own, or if you want to have notifications and alerts going for longer than a week, which is generally what I cap these to. So anyway, I know I'm kind of getting into a little bit of a rabbit hole there, but long story short, at least put an alert at 1208 on bull, especially if it crosses over that in the latter half of this week. If we get a confirmed break over that, I think bull might actually make a push and could make a pretty big push. It's kind of been sitting here going nowhere for quite a while. So I think could be some, pent up volatility in there that we'll see play out if and when we get that break over 1208. All right, beyond, we all watched this like hawks last week. We did our trade plan Tuesday morning. That plan played out for all of our price targets plus several 100% more from the entry level. We did catch an alert once I saw that it looked like the volume was coming in for it to actually start to squeeze. We did excellent with those 3 calls for 2027. I'm still holding one of those after getting some out at what was it, probably I think our exits were around like 30 some percent and 100 some percent were the exits on it. So anyway, This one has come back into this area of interest, in my opinion. So if it starts to push back over 229 and sets a, I would say, significantly higher low up here at 1.618 from the current all-time lows, again, it could, and I think it's what it's like. There's like 109% short interest or something like that as far as the float goes. So there's a lot of essentially synthetic short positions out there that could wind up being in a lot of trouble if Beyond does continue to maintain 1.68 as a good base of support. All right, Archer. This one did play out to the downside, gave us a tap of PT1 before it bounced. Now it's testing that put entry stop loss average down. Well, it's really the shared stop loss average down level. Still looking a little bit bearish in my opinion, especially trending below these SMAs. 200 starting to curl down. We might actually see a bearish crossover of the 200 dropping below the 333. Interesting confluence of resistance there near yesterday's highs around that 1169, 11, probably 75-ish area right in here. So keep an eye on that. That could be an interesting rejection opportunity. Not that I'm, necessarily bearish on Archer big picture or as a company, but the chart definitely looks bearish at the moment. And I would certainly lean that direction until it can break back over 1224. From last Thursday, we did Honest. This one has honestly gone nowhere as well. Sorry, couldn't help myself there. Hang on, let me get a little bit of coffee in. So, Honest moving sideways. And again, honestly, going nowhere. So, eye on Q. This one does look like it wants to push for the upside. We do have that 333 SMA confluence there at PT1. So, if we do get a good push, especially today, we start tested near that call PT1, I would certainly be, I would certainly take some profit there, move up your stops. You guys know the drill. How we handle these plans to make sure that we aren't letting green trades go red and giving back a bunch of profits that we could have easily booked. Remember, greed does kill accounts. I'd say probably greed and FOMO are like the two things that mess people up the most in trading from a psychological standpoint. So, maybe get a sticky note or something, stick it on your monitor. No greed, no FOMO. BTFD. IonQ looks like it does want to push here. We'll keep a close eye on it. Again, scale out, I would say maybe a little bit more aggressively than you normally would there at PT1. Also, same thing, raise your stops maybe a little bit more aggressively because there are some confluences up there at PT1 that I could certainly would say I've seen those setups reject a lot of times in my trading experience. And then last but not least on the recaps, Plug. We did this one last Thursday. It's done a good job of holding support right there at the key entry for the put, key support for the put entry. There we go. Let's get our words in the right order. They're at 287. So it looks like it is holding that so far. If you like Plug as a trade, it did have a nice little run there here recently. Might be just building up some consolidation, bringing in some more buying interest down here at 287 to see if it'll hold, and then it could actually make a push from here as long as that does hold. So keep an eye on it. If you like it long term, I wouldn't hate accumulating some shares here at 287 and just hold them in your long-term portfolio. Use those downside price targets as possible stop losses or average downs if you want to dollar cost average the position, but don't ever get super heavy into this one, in my personal opinion. Trade it light. All right, so let's get to some ticker requests. Let's do some new plans. I'm excited for these. Let's see what we're going to potentially go after this week. If you don't do reverse splits, yeah, definitely check that out. It is a pretty handy little strategy, but certainly, definitely. Do you have I'm guessing this is the Here's example. That's from. Gardle, is there anything pinned in the swings chat? Or is that explainer that you just mentioned, is that pinned in there? If not, if you can send me a link to that. Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, if not, I'll go in there and pin it for you. Okay, perfect. Yeah, go in there and check that out, that pin message. The reverse split strategy is definitely a really simple and smart way to make some extra cash on the side in the markets. And then we had app. All right, and if there's any other ticker requests, I'm going to try to get at least 2 in this morning, depending on how long they take. Maybe even 3 if I really cruise through them. I do want some extra time with this, SPY kind of having a lot of gap up, gap down type stuff happening here. I want a little extra time with the SPY plan this morning. I was in the middle of working on kind of my overall SPY master chart of all my levels and everything like that before we started this morning. But my wife was also in the process of getting ready to leave to go out of town for work for a couple of days, and I got sidetracked before I was able to get this going. All right, so let's take a look at app, and if there are any others, let's get going. Didn't I see? Yeah, Hive. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll take a look at app and Hive. I should be able to get through at least the 2 of those. Looks like we've got some fib extensions, downside fib extensions. That doesn't sound right. I don't really know what I must have done some fib retracements on this at some point. Maybe we were doing something kind of quick and on the fly. All right, well, we'll leave them there, but I am going to take another look at this from an overall support and resistance standpoint. So let's... Oh yeah, they were fib extensions. From that previous all-time high there back in February. Those have played out, but that's just weird. I don't typically throw fib extensions on a chart without having any support and resistance. I don't know what I was doing with this when I did it, but those fib extensions seem to be working really nicely. We've seen some nice support and resistance tests on the smaller time frames. Probably the hourly chart it was before I switched here to the weekly, but I just want to take a look at this real quick. Interesting double bottom there. That could wind up being a PT3 for puts on a downside trade plan. TBD. We'll figure it out. I am going to do this, though. Yes. There we go. That's better. All right. Current all-time high, at least from a weekly perspective. Definitely want to know where that is too. Yeah, obviously not much to work with here on the weekly chart. All right. What are we looking at here? It does look like it had a very clear downtrend here on the daily. And it's broken out of that, so that's a nice sign for the bullish thesis on this. I do like that level. It's a good one to watch. Could be a good put entry level potentially. All right, what are we doing here? Actually, I want to see this on one more time frame. I'm going to hold off on that being totally confirmed just yet. It's also an interesting level. All right, let's take this to the hourly because there's just so little price action up in this range that I just need more candles to work with. It's an interesting consolidation up there. Yeah, this is one of those kind of gotta read between the lines a little bit, but that looks solid to me. That's an interesting double top right there too. That's needs some confirmation, but we'll certainly keep an eye on it. All right, let's see what the indicators and everything are showing us now. Curling back to the upside here on the 200. Broke above, back tested the 333 there yesterday. Nice bounce off that. Right off the bottom. Bullish ribbon. Whoops. For those who like or have been paying or are using NTS, this is a setup that I really like. Right, we're riding this bullish momentum. We now have bullish buying pressure underneath us as well. We get up to that 333. We tested, okay, no big deal. No surprises that we found some resistance there. Then we get the back test with that 333 instead of being resistance, support right at the bottom of that bullish momentum as well. That's a great setup. Just an FYI. All right, so what are we gonna do? We are gonna get into app if it can break through 655. I think it already looks bullish, and I'll throw this out there. If we're holding above 641.18 going into the open, I would not be super mad if somebody got like maybe a starter contract or two at the very most, depending on your account size, and then looked to add. We do get a break over 655.61, because that's where I think we get a better window of opportunity back to the upside versus where I think we can set our risk or our stop loss at down there at 641.18, which is the level I'm talking about holding going into this trade. So but I think we get it's a more structured, better structured plan, in my opinion, over 655.61. I think that should give us targets at 674.62 and then on up to the 687.59 level from that set of fib extensions I did back in February. Yep, and then hang on, let me make sure. You know what? Yeah, I'd set this a little bit lower right here at 706.18. So that's the upside plan done. Where does downside get interesting? This daily level might need to be adjusted slightly. Yeah, it does actually. Right there. Yep, okay. So I do like that as an entry. We can set our stop loss average down on this one right here at 631.56. There is a gap to fill to the downside and the 200 SMA. Risk reward actually looks pretty. I'm not bearish on this, and the chart's not bearish, but Risk reward's actually pretty good to the downside below 616.85 in my opinion. Put that in the for what it's worth category. Yep. Yep. Okay, cool. I like it. So let's lock this in. Then we'll get to Hive for my fellow Xtrades top earner. What is that? Stop loss average down at 641.18. Oh, nope. Grab the wrong level there. 616.85 down to 590.91. There we go. Call put. All right. Solid. Let's clean this up real quick. Boom. Oops. Go. All right. Let me get this posted. Here comes your app live stream plan. And let me get this in the elite chat. Get our message link. Not doing Pine Script right now. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to hit. Cool. Let's lock in our template. Tuesday live stream plan 1. All right. So, oh yeah. And last but not least, trade plan pilot. Any alerts, same as chart. We'll give it until, no, actually, yeah, we will be in November. Monday, close of business. All right, so let's talk through this real quick, and then I'll get to this Hive trade plan. What are we looking for here on app? Like I said, if it's holding over 641.18, you could get it a small kind of a head start position. If you did take that entry, I would keep the stops pretty tight on that, because again, it's a risky entry, and market's super elevated. I wouldn't be surprised to see a day of profit taking sometime in the near future, especially with a very big gap below us and a gap on ES, but a big gap below on SPY as well. So, sorry, let me get a little bit of water in there. So if you want to start with again, maybe one contract, unless that's like a full position size for you, in which case just wait for the confirmation. Potential, again, head start there as long as we're holding over 641.18, but what we're really looking for this thing to open up to the upside is a confirmed break over 655.61 that should get targets at 674.62, 687.59, and 706.18 with a stop loss average down at 641.18. Downside, if it breaks below 616.85, I'd be looking at 590.91, 570.31, and 546.83. Nice confluence there with that 590.91, so definitely make sure that you're scaling some out and moving up your stops on the test of that. And if I forgot to mention, the stop loss average down is there at 631.56 for that downside trade plan. That's app for you. JT bot will feed alerts to the chats, so keep your eyes out for those. Be ready to act when the moment calls for you to do so. All right, so let's take a look at Hive. This is a crypto miner. I traded Hive a while ago, like maybe a couple years ago. Blockchain related. Yeah, okay. I knew they had something to do with crypto. Maybe they're not exactly a miner. So they're kind of like running the data centers for the crypto miners. I don't know. Anyway, they're in the crypto space, right? That's important. Ah, okay. So they're switching. Got it. Yeah, back in the day, they were like almost exclusively a miner. Way back in the day. At least that's my recollection. But looks like the last time I did a trade plan for it, it was trading down here in the three. Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say is like, yeah, and it was also like sub $5 last time I really looked at it too. All right, well, let's get this chart cleaned up. Let's see what we can't put together here on Hive. What is all of this? I was clearly pointing something out on the chart there. Okie dokie. Yeah, it's back when all the miners were running. Riot was like at 70. But green energy crypto mining, kind of an interesting pivot for somebody, for a business that knows crypto mining. Definitely looks like a better weekly level there. Now that time has allowed these levels to confirm a little bit more. 200 a month, that's pretty solid, right? I mean, I don't follow the crypto space super closely, but 200 sounds like good production to me, but I could be, correct me if I'm wrong about that. All right, I'll do one more weekly level to the upside, but I don't think we need any more, at least not for the foreseeable future. At least not for this plan. Yeah, those are good numbers. Might start scooping some shares on this just to hold long term, see if it doesn't make a run for the 20s. That's yeah, that all sounds pretty damn set. Now, you know, as long as their expenses aren't 50 million a month, that's pretty good. All right, that looks good for the upside. We got all the. Yep, I remember trading Wolf back in the day. I like it. I'm gonna scoop some shares on this. Thanks for. I also like this chart, by the way. Broke back above, back tested the 333 here on the weekly. That should be really solid support, along with having good support and resistance all around that 493. So, but upside, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, there's if it gets going, probably $12 of upside, and max worst case scenario 590 per share to the downside if it disappears off the face of the earth, which won't happen, at least not anytime soon, probably. All right, I gotta get out of this weekly time frame. Let me get to some smaller time frames here. Try to get this plan done. Now the question here is, can I get some better confirmation on this being a potential entry? What is the significance of the 333 SMA? So I would say the significance of it is, in my experience, it is really, really good at finding bounces and rejections. Kind of think of it as like a dynamic support and resistance level, if you will. It's a moving average that I found kind of like by mistake. Essentially, what I was trying to do was I wanted to watch and this is, God, I can't remember how many years ago this was. But what I was trying to do is I wanted to be able to see exactly where the 200 SMA on the 5-minute chart would be, but I wanted to trade the 3-minute chart, right? That's kind of was what I was doing at the time, at least when I came up with it. And so if you understand how SMAs work, 200 SMA on the 5-minute essentially gives you 1,000 minutes of data, right? So if you take that 1,000 minutes of data and say, okay, well, how does that set up on a 3-minute chart? Take 1,000, divide by 3, you wind up with 333.333. You know, it's one of those numbers that just, you know, will never divide evenly when you divide it by 3 like that. And so if you kind of think about like how algorithms work and the significance of, which is why like fib extensions and fib retracements and stuff like that tend to work. You know, I would put it kind of, it's not Fibonacci, but I would say it's kind of one of those things that pops up constantly. Like anytime you can't totally divide a number, you wind up with that 0.333 repeating a lot of times. Again, that wasn't my theory behind anything when I first put it together or when I first came across it, but then I started, you know, trading and having that on my chart, and then I wouldn't switch up my moving averages indicator as I might switch between time frames, and then I started seeing like, oh my god, this thing's catching stuff left and right on almost every time frame. So yeah, it can be a really great indicator to use to find confluences. Like if I get it lining up with some other stuff, either some other parts of Neptune or a key level support and resistance wise or anything like that, I start to get real interested in that type of a setup. So, you know, I pointed out, like Chris, there's several people now who will start to point out like, oh, this, you know, look at that 333 reaction, 333 or 333 SMA reaction. Chris, if you want to ask him, I turned him on to it a while ago, and yeah, it's just keep it on your charts, watch how it plays out across different time frames. I don't want to get too much deeper into this because I'm realizing I'm focusing more on that answer and not doing this trade plan that I'm supposed to be doing. If you want to learn more about it though, Ali, feel free to just DM me. I'll explain it as best I can. But again, something essentially found by mistake that I now use all the time. It was intentional, but I didn't realize what I had come up with until kind of I saw it, how it played out over a long period of time. All right, so if we're looking for a confirmed, like it's going to open up some upside, give us a decent room, some decent room to play it to the upside. This is the setup I've been kind of looking at as I've been running my mouth a little bit there. Oh, you're good. You're good. You didn't derail it. I kind of stopped. I was walking and chewing gum, and then I stopped doing one of the two. So yeah, I think there is some significance to it the more I thought about it after the fact. But that's how I came across it. And in the words of Bob Ross, it was a happy accident. That level is a little bit higher. Yeah, probably right about there. Yo, what up, Thug? Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Everybody, if you want to get it now before he's far too famous, he's getting ready to make the transition from television to being a full-on movie star. Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, coming to a theater near you. When is that coming out? I want to see that. That's probably going to be pretty good. I love the series. All right, 640, 720, 786, 840, 52. Oh, whoops. Forgot to fix that. Why does that? There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right, let's go. All right, let's drop this here. Let's get our link. Here we go. I like that GIF. 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 All right, let's get this posted in Elite. Let's get our link. Pilot. Cool. Let's lock this into our template. Set our alerts. Oh, wait, no. Or did I grab that link? Well, let me just make sure. What? Shit. There we go. All right, everything's ready to go. Let's take a look at this. What are we looking for here on Hive? We're looking for a break over 640. That should bring targets at 720, 786, and 840. But this does sound like a pretty interesting long-term portfolio setup here potentially. So keep that in mind. Maybe just buy and hold, and see how it continues to work out. Maybe sell some covered calls at those price targets. Totally up to you. Figure out what works best for your overall strategy. So again, over 640, targets at 720, 786, and 840. Stop loss average down for that call side trade plan 582. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 538. That should bring targets at 472, 423, and 387 with a shared stop loss average down there at 582. Those are your Hive live stream plans. All right, I do want to get the most time I can with the SPY plan this morning. I got a little bit of homework to do here. So let me get that knocked out. We will be back Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me this morning. As we always say here on Chart Talk Live, plan your trades, trade your plans, go out there and get some green. Remember, we're looking for profits, not perfection. So keep those wins big, keep those losses small. Have a great day. Come back Thursday. We'll continue to work on this stuff together. Let's go make some money, folks. All right. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you back here Thursday.